Dear Monique, well, I wonder what's going on here. Let's go in and see before anybody comes. Margaret Preston, Eliath Gruner, Tom Roberts, Grace Cossington Smith. And what are all these books? Why, these must be the Sydney-Paris link books. And these are some others. And these are the recent Sydney-Paris link books.
Waiting.
This looks like the Newcastle Mafia.
That's right, the Newcastle Mafia. Ready to wake up.
Yes, they're wonderful. And some along here too. I always associate Thompson with I do find.
Oh, we're getting a photograph.
This is for Monique. Would you like to say hello?
Oh, yes. Hello, Monique.
Bonjour, Monique.
Bonjour. Bonjour, Monique.
This is the Mafia from Newcastle, yes.
You've got a choice.
That's right.
Oh, how fantastic. That's wonderful.
I'm Gerry from Newcastle.
Tony has arrived.
I did get to go to meet your parents at their
I'll just have a glass of wine. That's exactly
Special for everybody, including Monique, who can't be with us today, but is with us now through the magic of the word. I'm so pleased that Guibourg, Delamotte, is fresh from a freezing Paris, I might add, and Marie Ramsland, whose efforts in the French department at the University of Newcastle, I say that with a deliberation, marks the Reciprocity volume as one of several in our new Newcastle-Paris link series. Who ever thought that could happen? Of course, you all will have noticed that I have already used two of Jean-Paul's favourite words. Newcastle, which he would speak of with the same affection and adoration as Montmartre or Paris. Newcastle is a concept, Tom, he would tell me in confidence. Reciprocity. Well, it is just the right word for the interlinking of two cultures. I will add the word nanina and the immaculate phrase Paul Vens. Because Jean-Paul was so well educated, so essentially philosophical, so generous, poetic and modest, these four words did not always click with Australian ears. But I have to say I found him absolutely clear. As Jean-Paul and I shared several realities. We shared the same birthday, We both had a loving creative partner and one daughter. My four major antecedents all came to Australia in 1840 to 1850 and all lived in Newcastle, Minmai or Maitland. My father was in the Department of Main Roads and refused to take the Newcastle division on the basis that he had too many relatives in the Newcastle area. I was born in Parks, or Parquets as they say in France. And my father was good enough to take me, aged 1 and a bit, to see the great Forbes flood, or Forbes as it's called here, on a moonlit night, and I've remembered it ever since. Paul Venz was a new and exciting writer to me, as a minor student of Australian literature, and thanks to Jean-Paul's insistence, Paul Venz is now part of the Australian literary canon. When I first met Jean-Paul in Sydney, he was talking of books and bookshops in Paris as being a little window. Remember that phrase? Little window for Australian writers. And I suggested this window might be a Sydney-Paris link. Indeed, in 1993, I went to the Frankfurt Book Fair representing the Sydney-Paris link with Jean-Paul's address, where in his generosity he allowed our family, Elizabeth, Butel and our daughter Angelica, to stay at La Petite Maison. So that's 30 years ago. That is the background to the fact that now our company publishes regularly under this phrase as a continuing memory to Jean-Paul, who facilitated so much for so many Australian writers, oh gosh, there's just so much, musicians, filmmakers, auteurs. This year we published several that you can see here. And we published the first translation of Joan Lindsay's The Secret of Hanging Rock and Arthur Upfield's The Murchison Murders, both in colour, in French, and they're here, all thanks to Newcastle University, where they were translated by Marie-Laure Vuaille-Barcan. We published a new edition of Babette Hayes' memoir Food for Friends, and Papaya from the original French edition by Australian journalist Hilary Roots of New Caledonia. We also published the first 6 of 28 Arthur Upfield novels as ebooks in French, which I originally sold while publisher of A&R to Jean-Claude Gilberstein at 10-18, thanks to a contact from Jean-Paul Delamotte. These two will be published as Sydney-Paris link titles in print and in ebooks. Having these French rights reverted, we have commissioned Marie Ramsland to translate, with Marie-Laure, Upfield's The Baraki Mystery in French for the first time, and this will complete the entire Upfield scene. And thus we'll have all 29 books available worldwide in 2024. We are negotiating with Actes Sud, again, originally through Jean-Paul, regarding their publishing all 29 books in French and in English for their territory. This is the oddity of French and German publishing, and it can be done in a small, flexible way, with the new Boney TV series now in pre-production. Concept of publishing in multi-language as we do, this year we also did 29 Bonies in German. It is a direct result of my continuing conversation with JP. On our last visit to Paris in early 2018, Jean-Paul showed me this book. Fantastic book. And of course, all he could see was the fact that there were all these Australian artists who he'd never known, and in fact I'd never known, who had been showing at the French salons. And he said, something should be done about this. Well, I'm afraid I was the only one in the room. And of course he was right. And while we were in Paris, I met the publisher, contracted an English translation of the Australasian writers, and you can see here, over here on this table and around, the updated 3rd edition Australasian artists at the French salons in colour. Certainly a Sydney-Paris link. I'd like, Marie has done too much for me. I won't ask her to appear again as herself, as she has appeared so much to us all, and we love her for that. This book would not have appeared without the great trained eye she has had. I would like, though, the young, ever young, Guibourg Delamotte to say a few words.
He is, in a way, very much, and this book is a celebration, it's a tribute, it's also a recreation, in a way, of my father's personality, life, his generosity as well, and my mother's, and it's just so wonderful to see that it is remembered. And he cared very much about how he might be remembered, and I think nothing would make him happier than to know this book exists. All thanks to Marie. Thank you so much for all the precious work, the delicate work, the time devoted into piecing information together, finding the right photographs, inserting excerpts. Everything works beautifully. It's a lovely book to read. Thanks to all your contributions as well. Thank you, Daniel, for the beautiful painting you provided, because the book would definitely not be the same without the painting. And of course, thank you, Tom and Liz, for your wonderful effort and for making this book come true. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad. This is such an extraordinary, exacting and beautiful response to a very complex and fascinating man. And I'm sure we're going to see more from you. And thank you again, and to Christine Thayer for Royal to allow us to have this room, unusually when they are closed. And that's a special thanks to you on that, Daniel. And thanks for all for coming. Please stay on and have some drinks.
All the encouragement. Take everyone I need to.
Yeah, so that would that be right timing? Early? No, late 80s. Oh, well, I did come back in at the time, so that could have been there. Oh, there you go. Very small. She's in Barrow. She's actually she was associate professor of gender studies at City University.
Yes, I knew she was in gender studies for some reason. I'm an honorary associate at City.
Oh,
so I must have seen her name on the list for the academic year.
She's retired.
Well, I'm not joking, but I'm just I'm into
Massive exhibition of all Australian, so they've got things like these amazing breastplates that Indigenous people wore around their necks.
Oh yes.
Post boxes. Crazy stuff, beautiful stuff that's in the NGV. They've been out looking at.
No, that's okay.
Oh.
You're in.
Oh, am I in it?
Yes, you're in it. Yeah, no.
John?
You're in it, and in fact, this is the Newcastle Mafia again, Monique. There's headed by the Godfather,
Yes,
John
Ramsland,
and his mistress, and a very well-known Miss Barcan. These are the people that dominate the cultural life. And here's Merrill Findlay at last appearing before us with Kevin Tang.